in lockdown looks different to different people from all over the world, but my next guest has a true sense of the word isolation. Ocean racer Dee Caffari became the first woman to sail single-handed around the world non-stop in both directions. And she's actually been using the mechanisms she learned to cope with at sea and translating that into living life in lockdown at the moment. She's been keeping fit, she's been keeping healthy, and working on controlling the controllables.
Aha!
Hey, how are you?
Look at that, technology worked first time. I'm quite impressed.
I know, exactly. Of course it was going to work. And both in stripes. Must be something to do with sailing.
And we didn't even discuss it before we spoke.
So exactly, we're so in tune. How are you?
Well, let's face it, since we've been in lockdown, the sun has been shining and I have a garden, clearly.
I know, exactly. Does that mean you've been out doing loads of DIY jobs in the garden, or have you just been sunning yourself?
No, it's disguised as painting the shed, painting the fence, weeding the garden, all those things that I just don't do. That I think, oh, we should do that. And it's basically because the sun's nice and I'll find any excuse to do stuff outside.
You're like, oh, I'm that person now.
But I do think I have SAD syndrome. So all winter, I mean, I spent January and February where the whole of the rest of the sailing fraternity was either in Australia for Sail GP or the Caribbean. And I was walking the dog in the floods and the rain and the mud. And I was really losing the will to live. And now, of course, we've gone into this new environment that we live in now in lockdown, and the sun's been shining, so I am just loving the sun.
I know, it's incredible. I mean, I, like you, I've got a garden. I think I'm so lucky. And yeah, the thing is, I'm not very good at gardening. I'm not very green fingered, so if it goes on too much longer, I'm just going to make a mess of it.
I know, I'm not very good at gardening, and let's face it, I'm generally not here, so it's just a case of tidying and convincing myself I'm making it look better.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. So, Dee, what's life in lockdown like for you? I mean, I know we just touched on the fact that you've become a gardener, but you know, what do you make of it? How have you been keeping yourself busy?
It's a bit weird because I don't have a regular routine in my life. So when I'm at home, I'm often based from home and run and kind of a normal life. So not that much has changed while I'm home. But it's that fact that you're told that you can't go out. I know I'm quite sociable, given that I'm known as a solo sailor. That's quite unusual. But I am quite sociable. So my dog walks would generally be to meet up with someone or go for lunch or have, afternoon tea or something. But it's that case of I can't do that. So it's just managing that. And I'm quite a creature of habit, and I'm very structured in my day and my routine. So that hasn't changed. And I've almost found I've got a bit more time to commit to stuff. So my fitness is in the morning. I do some stuff on, for work or emails or interaction during the day, and then generally do a bit in the garden, playing with the dog in the afternoon.
So it sounds like you've almost created a new routine for yourself. And tell me a bit about your fitness.
Oh, well, it's one of those things. I'm a bit of, as I say, a creature of habit, and I do what I'm good at because I don't like doing stuff I'm not very good at. And everyone that knows me knows I can't run for toffee to save my life. Running for a bus would be hard. So I thought, I'm going to do all these things and also I was in fear that this lockdown that we have is quite flexible, like we're allowed out. So I wanted to make sure I exercised my right to go out each day. And when I'm not out with a dog, it's like, right, I have to go out and run, just in case that was taken away from me. So it's hilarious because I could do this in general day-to-day living, but I don't do it because I'd rather go and lift heavy things at the gym. So I decided that I was going to start running and do yoga, two things that I'm absolutely rubbish at, but I thought now's the time because no one can really see me doing it. And the yoga is more of a case of I know I should, and I'm at the age where it does help. And it is kind of cool, and I have got better. And then the running has just made me laugh because I became a bit obsessive and the mileage was going up. But of course, I'm a bit of a plodder. I'm not very quick. And I thought, I need to do something about that. And everyone's been giving me loads of tips. It's been quite funny. So I do that thing where I just want to do everything. So I decided to do a session of, I'll combine, everyone says, oh, you need to do intervals or sprints or hills. And you think, oh, okay. And it's quite hard to do that on your own. You need someone to tell you to do it, really. So I decided to run up and down my road, which is a slight incline. I picked off like 100 meters. I thought I'd do it 10 times, like run as hard as I could up and down the road. Well, I haven't been able to move for 2 days. The pain has been incredible. So I may have like overdone it a little bit, but that's what it's all about, isn't it? No one could see. I entertain the neighbours.
But it sounds like when you commit, woo, you commit. You're like, I'm going to do this.
Well, I kind of like, I really want to come out the other side of this having done something or achieved something or worked hard at something. So I think I should have maybe stuck to something I was a bit better at, really.
No, I think it's exactly the right thing to have done. I am also a plodder. So when you're running along, what do you listen to? Do you have music or podcasts? What sort of gets you through apart from thinking, oh, this is hurting a bit now?
Yeah, so I used to do a lot of music, and I found that quite hard because I want to sing, and I can't breathe and sing at the same time. So I was like, breathing's probably more important. So I've started doing podcasts, which is quite funny, and actually I feel it's quite good because it kind of, you feel as if you're expanding your mind at the same time. But some of them are quite funny, so I find myself running along kind of chuckling away, and everyone thinks, oh look, she's really enjoying herself. So it is quite funny.
I've done that. I've run along with podcasts because I used to do music. And then you'll find when you go back to music, you'll run so much faster.
Oh, I like that then.
I know it happened. But then obviously you go back to normal, but it did work. And obviously, you know, all events and sport is being cancelled. I know you're very, you know, you'll be keen following all sailing and everything. And sailing season should really be blowing away right now. So have you got anything that's kind of filling the void that you haven't got any, you know, sports on?
It is really hard, and like Easter having just gone should have been the start of the Easter regatta where you get all the on the water coaching, and I was really looking to kind of throw myself into the mixed double-handed stuff this year just to see if there was an opportunity, or you know, whether I could survive for a few more years and be part of that scene. And of course it didn't happen, and you think, oh, and looking at that group of people, there's loads of online coaching stuff going on and all the virtual sailing. And I am just like so that person that just never plays computer games. I just don't get it. And I know that's what I should be doing because that's what everyone else is doing. And all the coaching online is really good. And it's really good for strategy and tactics, but I'm just not that person. So I haven't really engaged in that. But what I do is this online content is just growing, isn't it? What you can have access to is amazing. And you see all these different sports people that are phenomenal in their own right, saying, oh, try this workout at home, try this workout at home. So Ineos and their yoga, loving all of that. And then England Roses, they put out some training programs. Well, I've tried some of them. I couldn't move the next day after that either, because you go, oh, that's quite good, I'll try that. And then, you know, you come out and you're like, oh, I can't move. So I love trying all the new stuff and being inspired by other sporting kind of teams or people that train differently and do different stuff. I love all that.
I mean, it sounds like you've sort of, in lockdown, you're looking at, you know, all different things you can do. But when you think of, as you said, you're a solo sailor, but when you were sailing around the world on your own, I mean, when we talk about being confined to a space, you're like, oh, I know what it's like to be confined to a space. You know, it's very grueling on your body when you're sailing around the world, but obviously you can't get out and exercise or do, well, you could stretch, I suppose, but do everything that you're talking about now. So, you know, what similarities and differences can you draw from being locked down at sea to lockdown now?
Don't forget, when you're locked down at sea, you're physically running everything, you're doing everything. And the boats are physically quite demanding, and you have to pace yourself, and it's intervals. It's like all out on a sail change, and then you get to sit down and do nothing. So you go from absolutely nothing to everything and back again, and you have to be able to do that multiple times and sustain it over a period of months. So it's a really different kind of fitness, and where we don't go further than 60 feet, our upper body obviously does quite a lot. And I remember coming back in, I couldn't walk the length of the beach, although it was very romantic, and wasn't it nice being back with my partner and all that kind of thing. But you know, I could arm wrestle anybody, so it was quite funny the difference you come back with physically. And one thing I really noticed was how short my hamstrings got, just because you're in that kind of crouched position, because you're adjusting for the movement of the boat all the time, and you don't go anywhere, you don't do any of that. So I'm much more aware of the shortcomings when you're in that kind of confinement. So probably that's why I'm into my yoga at the moment.
How often are you doing your yoga?
I'm trying to do it every day. I didn't know there were so many sun salutations. I tell you, I didn't know so many animals were involved. Who knew? My down dog's nearly as good as my actual dogs.
Do you go alongside each other and see who's better? He's like, hey, I'm not doing
Yeah, he does do that. What are you trying to do, Mum? And then he puts the tennis ball, strategically placed so I can't miss it. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So have you been, I don't know, did you ever suffer from cabin fever when you were on the boat? Have you had any cabin fever now?
No, but I think if we were enduring these 4 weeks and it had been like it had been at the beginning of the year and it had been raining and stuff like that, I think it would be a totally different story. For me, just by being outside, I'm happy. It just, as long as you can hear nature, feel the wind on your face, absorb the sun, I'm happy as you like. And I think it's really different. And I obviously take the dog out each day or go out for my plod. And I think that's kind of that balance that I get. So I'm not that bad, but I miss the interaction with the people. And, Thursday night's clapping is hilarious. Suddenly you speak to your neighbours, I don't normally do that. And we're all there. Hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. Okay, see you next week. And everyone's chatting across the fence a lot more. And, that sense of community is so lovely now. But it's brought out sides of people and environments and the place where you live that never existed before. So it's quite nice in a way.
I think there's been a true sense of community. But all I keep hearing from you is how sociable you are. When you said to your friends and family, I'm going to be a solo sailor, were they like, do you realise that means you're actually going to be on your own for quite a long time?
Yeah, that may have been a detail that I overlooked. It's a little bit like never having sailed single-handed before and getting sponsored by an insurance company. May have been the small details that I overlooked. But I think, don't forget, my race around the world before I did the solo stuff was as a skipper on the Global Challenge. So I had 17 amateur sailors paying for the experience of a lifetime that I had to manage 17 expectations, deliver them safely around the world. And it starts as a sailing exercise, moves into a man management exercise, and develops into a conflict management exercise. So that's probably no surprise why I went from that to sailing the same boat without the 17 people on board.
Just cut the hassle, just straight out. But of course, when you did sail first time on your own around the world, 2006, how many days do you see? It was 178 or something, but obviously...
Oh, good homework.
I was trying to sound really like, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but obviously I've done my research.
I'll just throw that number out there.
Was it roughly 178? But obviously you chose to do that, that you chose to be on your own and go on this adventure of a lifetime. So a lot of people are talking about isolation. There are many people that are isolated, and if they're having people deliver food or prescription drugs or whatever, they really are getting that sense of the word. But obviously you really, really understand the sense of the word isolation.
Yeah, and I think everybody deals with it and it affects everybody so differently. And I think we need to be quite sensitive about that. And for some people, this is really tough to deal with. And, if you think about it, we have all these platforms that make that interaction and that connection so much easier these days. And I think now, my nephew's got a little 18-month-old and my sisters, they're connected the whole time. And so you don't miss out on any of the developments. And I think that's really key now. And I think we have to use our digital platforms for good. But it also makes me obviously quite environmental, having done my most recent round the world. And you see the impact of what lockdown's having on nature and the planet. And you just think, if all the businesses and all the people are staying connected and running meetings through digital platforms, is there really that need to travel when we come out the other side of this? And part of me thinks that we're going to go straight back to normal, and the other half of me thinks I really hope there's some really clever people making sure that we don't go back to normal, or what was the old normal.
I know there's been so many conversations about going around about that, when you're talking about the environmental side of things there, because it's like, hundreds of people will be sitting in their front room thinking, wow, all those meetings I've traveled to, and I could have just done it from here.
I know. Just the lost time of travel, hotel rooms, not seeing your family. God, if you can agree, like, people have got confidence in these platforms now. So if you can just agree to do stuff like this, it's got to take off a lot of stress from people. I mean, this is good because we're talking about the benefits of the current situation, because, it's very easy to forget when it's not affecting you directly of how bad it actually is.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you were solo sailing, or of course when you've done it with crews, but particularly solo, because obviously that's the more isolated part and stuck somewhere, did you ever let your mind wander about what you were craving and the first thing you were looking forward to when you got to land? Or have you trained yourself to switch off from that? And I'm just wondering whether you've got something now that you're looking forward to when we're free to roam as we like.
It's interesting because I've had to kind of heed my own advice a little bit. I wrote an article of just the lessons learned, and the take up of that was massive. But actually, I've had to kind of read that myself because, there is a level of fear and anxiety because we're in unknown situation, and you get a weather forecast and it's that fear and anticipation of what's about to come and how you deal with that. And for me in this situation, I had a big panic of like seeing all your work and potential income for the next few months disappear. You're like, oh, what am I going to do? But actually you have to worry about the things you can control, and that's all about routine and structure. And so for me, when I was on my own, it was very much a routine that kept me going, because otherwise you could get to the point where you actually don't know what day it is. And I have friends now say, oh, what day is it? It's the day after yesterday, but I have no idea what day that is. But I'm still very much of, I actually know. And I think that comes from sailing around the world. Your day, your 24 hours runs by weather forecasts, so updates, and so you can run the routing and the strategy and tactics, and your day kind of evolves from there. And it just allows you to know what meal to have, what date you are, especially as you're sailing around the world, you're going through time zones at the same time. So it gets really confusing. And I think that's really helped me now with that structure. Not that I ever miss a mealtime, that's for sure. But it just allows me to kind of know where I am day to day, how many days it's been, how many weeks. Because the worst thing you can do is go, oh, that's one day down. That's 2 days. Okay. And they said 3 weeks, I've got 21 to go. Don't count down. Don't start thinking about all the things that you wished you had. So when you're offshore, food is that number one topic. And when you're in a crew, it's really hard to control because obviously other people influence the conversation. But when you're on your own, you don't want to think, oh, I'd really crave a really cold can of Diet Coke with the condensation running down, and you're in the doldrums and there's nothing but warm water from the water maker to drink. And you're like, great. So I think it's really easy to manage when you're on your own, but as soon as you get other people contributing to that conversation, it's really hard to manage. But yeah, don't obsess about all the ththings that you haven't got anymore.
I think that's brilliant advice. I love that you wrote it and then you reread it just to check.
Oh God, no, I have to listen to it because you're not always going to have a good day every day, and sometimes you're going to have down days, or you'll miss somebody, or you'll be frustrated. And I did learn those lessons the hard way, and I've shared them, and I had to share them with myself again.
But I mean, I understand what you're saying, that you can't sort of let your mind wander, but have you thought about what, not craving it, but have you thought about what you might do, what you're missing most that you can't do at the moment?
It's interesting. I mean, I'm lucky Harry's actually at home, so thankfully we're together, although in 18 years this is probably the longest amount of time we've spent together under the same roof, because normally one of us is traveling at one time. The dog is beside himself. He doesn't know what to do with two of us at home all the time. But it's the bit you miss when I was solo sailing was the interaction, so the non-verbal communication and expressions, and just being with him is great. We haven't fallen out yet, but the other people that you see, I would see people at the gym, or I would see friends during the week, and that interaction with them I really miss. And that's why I think these platforms are so good, because you can actually go face to face and get that face to face interaction with people. And for my family especially, I think it's really important, and I think that's quite valuable. And I think back now, seeing a little one develop through learning numbers and colours and talking and words, it's so valuable for families to not miss out on huge steps that children are making during this time.
Yeah, it's a really positive way of looking at it. I've got 2 young children, and we have ups and downs. I'm not gonna lie, it's bringing its own stresses, but there will be a time, I'm sure, that many families will look back and think, I actually missed that we had all that time together. But obviously, when you're at CD, particularly when you're sailing solo, I know like changes of clothes are a luxury, and you know we're in lockdown. I know Harry can see you, but no one else can. What I'm asking is, are you? Or I can roll quite a few more days out of those joggers.
It's tempting, isn't it? And I often laugh, right? How many platforms have you been on where you go, oh, it's really nice to see you, and you're actually really busy looking at the background behind the person of like, oh, where do they live? What's in the background of that picture? And then you do that whole thing of like, oh, they've got a nice top on. I wonder if they've got their pajamas on. You know, what's underneath, because everyone's sat there quite nicely, or they've done their hair, which they haven't done for like a week. So yeah, there is that element of, oh, I've got a call to do, and it's not a telephone call anymore. It's actually a digital platform, so you actually have to make the effort. The good thing for me that means that I'm not kind of wearing the same clothes for weeks on end, which I'm quite used to, is because I'm doing my fitness. It's actually quite a sweaty job in the morning, so it's making me have a shower. That goes in the wash, so that's definitely helping things.
Oh, so no pajama days yet?
Well, and also the weather helps. The fact that it's actually sunny means that, yeah, it is quite hot and sweaty, so you know you're more likely to it.
So far there's not been a direct no, it's just been a there's really
You know me too well. Let's not share everything about me, okay?
no worries. But no, talk about clothes. I have done all the pieces for this, all the interviews in my slippers. It's been fabulous. I don't think I've ever presented in my slippers before. It's the new way forward. I'm very comfortable. And so in the evenings, evenings can be long. I know that evenings are getting lighter, but are you binge watching anything? What are you enjoying on TV?
Yeah, no, I've been quite creative in the kitchen. We've done really well in the kitchen. We do that whole our one weekly outing. One of us will go walking with the dog while the other one does the supermarket shop. So we're kind of multitasking. And Harry's really good at like, he'll just come back with random ingredients, and you're like, what are we going to do with that? So we've actually been quite creative in not eating the same thing all the time and creating new stuff. I'm quite into following recipes. He's more just chuck it all in and see what happens. So that's been quite good. So we've done quite a bit of cooking, trying to eat healthy, eat the rainbow, because I do fall into that boredom eating thing where you walk past the fridge several times, you keep opening it hoping that something miraculously has appeared, and of course it hasn't. So I need to be quite careful with what I'm eating while I'm in this kind of situation. So we've been quite good at that, and then we have been watching a few things on TV just in the evening, but doing that, controlling how much TV. So we only do a few hours in the evening, and we probably only watch the news once a day, just because otherwise it was overload. So now it's good to know what's going on, but not kind of immerse yourself in depression. I think that balance is quite important.
Yeah, picking and choosing to make sure, because I was chatting with someone the other day about the fact that it's just at you all the time. And I think very early on I started doing that because I was like, I'm just walking around depressed, and that's no good for anyone.
Yeah, no, it's not healthy. And yeah, you have to appreciate what's going on, but you don't need it 24/7. So yeah, just filtering that a bit and just having a condensed period so that you know what's going on, but you don't need to immerse yourself in depression. But I've got really into, I did binge watch a classic, Netflix, and I saw other people talking about it, and I'm so easily led. And I was like, oh, what's that about? Cheer. I don't know if you've seen it. It's about cheerleading. And I'm telling you, this is not just a load of pom-poms. This is serious acrobatic gymnastics and training beyond belief. I was just hooked on that. And it was a docudrama. So it was quite cleverly done, following a year of this high school cheerleading group thing. Highly recommend that for people. And then following on in my, let's have sporting greats and that, I watched a really good CrossFit film about the World Championships in 2017. And then I'm inspiring myself by watching other people working hard. And then I watched the Simone Biles story, the gymnast, and like that was phenomenal. So I've done like some really kind of alternative sports that I don't normally watch, but just being inspired by other people doing great things. Hasn't quite happened in my garden yet, but hopefully it'll have a knock-on effect on me.
I love it. I can just imagine you doing yoga to all these gymnastic things, like, I'm ready to stretch.
And in my head, I've done a backflip and everything.
You're just finishing. And I know we've been talking about you being in your garden a lot. Have you been doing lots of DIY? Any DIY nightmares or successes?
No, I've kept it quite simple, to be honest. Painting the shed doesn't really need a steady hand, so you can get away with a bit there. Painting next door's fence has been quite safe, although the dog did get a bit on him as well. So I added to some of his colourings, which was, when it was brown, it was okay. He's a liver and white spaniel, but when it was the blue paint, he wasn't very good at that. So I had to wash him after that. So yeah, no, I've done the safe stuff. I did have every intention of doing indoor stuff, but that just takes a little bit more effort. So I haven't quite ventured into that yet.
I think you can wait for the rain for those ones. That's what I keep saying.
Exactly. And hopefully by then it'll go back to normal and I won't have to do any of it. And you'll be like, well, if I only had the time.
Oh no, I really missed the window on that one. Oh well, another time. Now and today, the day that we're recording this, of course, it's World Day, and I've been following what you've been doing. No, doesn't roll off the tongue too easily. World Sailing Sustainability Education Program. Have I got that right?
Yeah, very good. Yes. No, that doesn't really roll off the tongue, does it?
No, but I mean, I know you were saying that it's fitness in the morning and dog walks and working in the afternoon. So you can do those things remotely. You obviously can't sail at the moment, but you're still keeping that very much alive. I know you're very busy and very active on those side of things. So a big launch today, and something I'm very interested in with 2 young children.
Yeah, so the interesting thing was I had a few friends that were like, oh my God, I've got to entertain my children all day long. And in theory, they need to be learning stuff, like, how am I going to do this? And for 3 weeks, it was okay because it was Easter holidays in some of that. And then it's like, this is 6 weeks. And so what I started doing was I was just sending them, they have half an hour in their day assigned to whatever questions I send them, and I send them little things. And I was quite sensible questions and then some not so sensible questions. And then we've been working on this at the World Sailing Trust with 11th Hour and using the ocean race materials as well that they had, trying to put a program together that will help children kind of be inspired by the sport of sailing, but also have an environmental side of it. And I was just like, we've got to get these materials out while everybody is craving, all the parents out there are craving content and something different to give. So it was great that they could be launched today on Earth Day and have that environmental feel to it. And over the next 6 weeks, there's 6 modules and there'll be a module a week. So all the parents now can know that on a Wednesday, they get something new to download and work through with the kids.
It's great. I love it because inevitably there is a lot of screen time, whether they're working on the computer or watching TV. So it's nice to think that there's something sort of educational and towards their future. And I particularly like Cartoon You.
Well, that was great. That was a collaboration with Ocean Safety, and Ocean Safety talk life rafts, life jackets, safety gear, and it's quite heavy. And at this time, led by Amy, who's in exactly the same position with 2 kids to entertain all day, was just like, I don't know if you really want to go back to your teacher background, because for those that don't know, I spent 5 years as a teacher. And although I was secondary school, it's much easier to aim it at Key Stage 2 because there's less kind of rights and wrongs. It's more, it will do. And I just came up with an idea and they did a fantastic job with the animation. And who'd have thought that I would become an animation? I'm quite chuffed.
I think you look fabulous. I like it because the way it moves as you're talking, it's really great. I love it. I'm very keen to keep in touch.
Well, the good news is the ocean safety one, there'll be another one in, I think, another week's time, and it'll be on ocean health. So it is subjects that they do need to know about, but obviously done through my stories, so it's a little bit different.
I love it. It's great. And you've been mentioning your dog and you've been looking down. Is he with you?
He's at my feet.
Is he a big dog? Can you pick him up for us to meet him?
No, he's not big. Come on then, Pop. Come here. Don't play hard to get. Come and say hello to people. Oh.
There we go.
Yeah. Who's that? This is Jack.
And he's not blue at the moment, so obviously the paintbrush didn't quite get to him.
His tail was, it got washed.
Well, he doesn't look too scarred about it.
No, I think he wants to stay now.
He's like, she keeps doing interviews up here. I finally got my moment.
Yeah, I'm finally going to hang out with my mum.
Yeah. So have you been doing lots of well, I don't know, Zoom calls with friends? Are you doing, because we're finding we're drinking a little bit more in the evenings because we are doing more virtual chats.
Oh, how weird is that? That actually, I almost feel that I'm more connected now that we're in isolation than we were before. So we did one of those with a lot of our friends in Lymington. So normally we go and cross the cattle grids and we meet up, but we did a virtual kind of drinks night. And like 3 hours later, we were like, anyway, it was really nice to chat. It was fab. But yeah, family, I've never spoken to them so often. But yeah, lots of friends. It is really nice. And I think, it's credit to the platforms that are out there that there's so many options. And in a time that is kind of hard for people, increasing that connection can only be a good thing.
I found that as well. It's become much more sociable. And it's funny you said the 3 hour thing. I had one the other night and I was like, that's kind of the amount of time we'd have gone out for. And we've just been sat at home with like the bottles just stacking up. Not very good.
I know, just random people disappear at times and come back with a drink and come. I'll just go to the bathroom. It's really cool. But yeah, it's like just sitting and chatting in the pub, but obviously everyone's in their front room.
But you never had any of that on board? Or did you have any sort of screen to talk back to people? Did you have any interaction?
No, which is probably why I really noticed the non-verbal communication and how important it was. Because yes, you read emails, but when you're on your own on the boat, you reread and reread, and then you start reading into it, and then sometimes it's really misinterpreted. So that massive learning curve of, do you know what, it's actually much better to pick up the phone, or even better still, go and see the person than send that email, because it's too easy to do and it's too easy to misinterpret.
That's a massive lesson learned. With all the traveling you've done all around the world, whether you've sailed there yourself or actually got there to start a race, if you could go back to anywhere right now, where would it be?
Oh my god, do you know what, there's a lot of places. I've been really lucky, as you say, and I've seen a lot of places and I've traveled a lot, but there's still so much I haven't seen. So while it's really nice to go back to places, there's still so much more of the world to see and explore. So I hope I haven't finished yet, although I'm promoting the lack of emissions and the lack of travel as it being a good thing. I still would like to travel to all the other places that I haven't seen.
Well, it's just it's just a balance, isn't it? It
is
not going too crazy with it, but you can still want to see parts of the world, I think, because it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. And I do those things where you can do it through other people a little bit. So I've been watching Race Across the World of the couples that have been racing down South America. I love that program. And I was like, Harry and I have even discussed whether we would be good at doing it, and we don't think we'd be very good. But I've been suggesting it to loads of other people that I think would be excellent at it.
Why wouldn't you and Harry be good?
I'm not very good with weird food. I only like what I know. I'm not very brave in that respect. And he's rubbish at sleeping, sitting up. So like if he's on a long haul flight, he'll just watch a load of movies because he doesn't go to sleep. So he'd end up being really tired. So I think we would just really struggle.
I love that. That is such a classic comment from someone that spent a lot of their life sleeping, sitting up. You're like, he's just rubbish at sleeping, sitting up. I mean, what's wrong with him?
Yeah, I think my strength will be the cat nap for definite.
Yeah, sleep deprivation. I've got that one ticked. I'm fine. But that's brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been so nice to catch up. Actually, I think of you a lot, Dee, because...
Oh, that's nice.
But in general, obviously, but also every time I can't have caffeine, so every time I make myself a coffee or tea, I have decaf.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Has anyone not said that to you before?
Yeah.
Oh,
I tried to get it as a name for like Twitter, like all social media stuff, but it's gone. Like everybody wanted that, so I've had to use my proper name.
Not just decaf. Oh well, but that's why. But I'm having a decaf with you, Dee Caffari.
I'm liking yourself. Do you know what? I watched your first episode with Freddie, and I just love listening to him anyway. And I so knew why you did him first, but I was just like, I can't do that. I'm just not as interesting as he is, and I just can't chat as well at all. But it's been lovely to talk to you. But I did feel the pressure following Freddie.
Pressure from Freddie. He'll be thrilled to hear that. Oh my goodness, you shouldn't at all. I come to you because you're such a good talker, and I knew that we'd be able to have a good old chat about lockdown and life. And it's been lovely to talk to you. That's the positive of lockdown. We wouldn't have been able to chat otherwise. Well, we could have done, but here we go.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we found an excuse. It's been lovely to talk to you. It's been too long.
Thank you, Dee. Anyway, you take care of yourself, and I'll see you in real life very soon.
Cool. Lots of hugs. Stay safe.
Make sure you tune in for the next episode where I woke up super early to call the other side of the world, and I caught up with Olympic gold and silver medalist Nathan Outteridge to find out about his life in lockdown. He's been keeping fit, he's been keeping on his toes by his 1-year-old son, and he's been working through a very extensive jobs list.
The list is here, I think. It's very long. All right.
Wow.